Boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing, boys. My name is Eric Pate. I am your host, Eric Pate, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Racing with me, Eric Pate. I'm your host, of course, Eric Pate. So, we got 7 topics worth of discussion tonight. Originally we were going to have 6, but I watched a really great documentary tonight that does actually involve NASCAR this week. Luckily, all 7 of our topics involves NASCAR in some way. Unlike last week where we had a topic where I was talking about a football game. Again, that was in last week's podcast, and I decided to do a standalone video as well. Well, the standalone video is also in the same video as the podcast video, but I decided to do a standalone just in case people want to hear my thoughts on the Super Bowl. Anyway, topic is of discussion. We lost Dale Earnhardt. My reaction to that documentary. I might not actually write down my full thoughts on it. Actually, I might. I don't know. Top 10 from each series from Daytona. Top 10 in points after Daytona. Controversially, crap. I meant to put / wreck of the week. Controversy of the week and wreck of the week will be in the same topic. Unless we have both controversy and a wreck. How does NASCAR do qualifying? But we have weather. Now, I can make a video by itself just talking about qualifying in general. But we want to talk about the qualifying format for weather. The last lap of the truck race, that is worth discussing. And my picks for each of the 3 series going to Atlanta. Now, letting you know for the picks of Atlanta, these are guys that I just picked 10 random drivers from each series. So, but starting next, now, since we did start off the season with 2 super speedways, the super speedway races, I just want to go ahead and clear something up on that. We will have just 10 picks for the super speedway races. But if we don't have a super speedway, I am going to look at their stats on that last time we were on that kind of track and make my pick based off of those. So for the super speedway races, that is both Daytona, both Talladega, and both Atlanta, we are just going to have 10 picks. That's all I'm going to say. Reason being, everybody's an underdog. And everybody's an underdog in every race. But Daytona, Talladega, and Atlanta, they're more underdogs. So, I'll be back in a second with our first topic of discussion, which is we lost Dale Earnhardt. We'll start section topic number 1 of the video, which is talking about Dale Earnhardt 25 years after we lost him. Real quick, if you're a new NASCAR fan, that name is about to be really popular for you. Dale Earnhardt Sr. was one of the sport's most iconic drivers. Within the last handful of years, we lost Cal Yarborough. We lost Greg Biffle just about 2 months ago in a plane crash. Actually, 2 months ago today in a plane crash. Just a couple weeks for that, we lost Michael Annett to an illness. What I'm saying is, over the last handful of years, we lost a bunch of icons. But I would say probably we lost probably a lot of icons within the last 25 years. But I'm going to say this. I don't think there's no driver more iconic than Dale Earnhardt Sr. Now, I did watch the documentary tonight. Actually, that was literally released the night of the Clash. No, not the Clash. Did I say the Clash? I mean the duels. I didn't watch it, obviously, because I was busy recording the podcast for this, and then took a bath and whatnot to get ready for bed. Yada, yada, yada. And I watched it. I watched it tonight, and I thought, the documentary that was released what's called We Lost Dale Earnhardt 25 years later. I am going to include a link in the description below if you want to give it a watch. Actually, the link in the description below is you need to watch. Normally, when I talk about race car crashes on this channel that are big enough that I think it's worth discussing, normally I would mute the TV, show you guys on the TV like the crash, and try to analyze with my hands on what's going on. But we're not going to do that with Downer. Yes, it's been 25 years, but I don't want to analyze a crash that killed someone. And the 4 words that changed NASCAR forever were said that day, and I'm not going to say those 4 words again. We're actually going to listen to a quick 13 second video of the. Now that's all he said. Now I want to find like the full press conference or whatever to see if he said more. But we're gonna listen to the 20 or less words, or maybe less than that. We're going to keep tally of it, of how many words in these 13 seconds. But I think these 13 seconds changed NASCAR forever. Real quick, I want to go ahead and give a backstory on what happened actually on the last lap of the Daytona 500 in 2001, which occurred actually 25 years ago today. I think it's appropriate to bring it in the podcast today since I watched that documentary today. 2 Dale Earnhardt Incorporated drivers, Michael Waltrip and Dale Earnhardt Jr. were running 1 and 2. Earnhardt was running 3rd going into turn 3 for the final time of the Daytona 500. Kenny Schrader got turned into Dale Earnhardt. Earnhardt hit the wall, and both cars spun down into the infield. Kenny Schrader was, now most of the time when a driver, now drivers are not allowed to get out of the car until the AMR safety, due to safety, until the AMR safety team is at the car, unless the car is legitimately on fire. So, but at the time, in 2001, and the rule became official in 2014 after what a dirt track driver did, and which ended up ending his life. But we're talking about how Dale Earnhardt's life was ended, and he and it didn't look that bad. If you know the show Malcolm, you know Frankie Muniz, who plays Malcolm, is a current truck series driver, and he said that after his death, it kind of inspired him to become a NASCAR driver. And a few other drivers said different things. If you want to know like former or current drivers said, and a couple former media members, and actually Mike Helton himself on what was going through his head after he made that announcement. But actually, just those 4 words, "We lost Dale Earnhardt," changed it. We're actually not going to tally it. Let's take a listen.
This is undoubtedly one of the toughest announcements that I've ever personally had to make. But after the accident in turn 4 at the end of the Daytona 500, we've lost Dale Earnhardt.
We're going to listen to it again, but I want you guys to pay real close attention to his voice.
This is undoubtedly one of the toughest announcements that I've ever personally had to make. But after the accident in turn 4 at the end of the Daytona 500, we've lost Dale Earnhardt.
Those 4 words, I think, were the perfect 4 to describe the situation that day. Somebody who, when I was watching this documentary tonight, there was somebody that was actually working media for the Daytona 500. He actually said that saying the word we as in not you, not me, not NASCAR, not just NASCAR, not just you, not just me, not just NASCAR, not just anybody who knew him, the whole world. And instead of saying died or his death came and whatnot, I think lost was the perfect word there. And everybody was I was told everybody in that documentary, everybody in the NASCAR world was shocked. I was told by somebody that out of everyone at Dale Earnhardt Incorporated, that the last person was to find out was Michael Waltrip. And he just got done winning the Daytona 500, and somebody actually came up to I gotta find the video, I'll include that in the description, came up to him and said that he needed to stop celebrating. And some of the people said their first suspicion was Michael's brother Daryl was saying something like you can hear the emotion in Daryl's voice, I hope Dale's okay. And you just listened twice and within the last couple minutes here, I might play it one more time. The reason why I wanted you all to pay attention to his voice was you can tell no one wants to make that announcement. No one wants to make the announcement that we just lost the biggest name in NASCAR. No one wanted to make that announcement. And Mike Helton actually said himself that he knew that, I think he was even asked if he wanted somebody else, but he said that on NASCAR president him needed to make that announcement, but he had a really good personal relationship with Dale Earnhardt. So I really wanted to touch on this because ever since in 25 years since last time we had a death in NASCAR due to a NASCAR related incident, but if I say 25 years since we last had a death in NASCAR, y'all might ask, what about the death of Greg Biffle 2 months ago today? That was not a NASCAR related death. That was a plane crash. What I was meaning was we almost had one 6 years ago in the Daytona 500 with Ryan Newman. I thought we were about to have one. Everybody did. Everybody's like, oh. And even people who didn't even know who Dale was. I wasn't alive when Dale Earnhardt was racing. I was born 9 months after his death. I want you guys to understand that NASCAR cannot be a safe sport. But luckily, like I said, we haven't had a death in 25 years in NASCAR. And I really just want you guys to this is why I'm being so not emotional, but so trying to get the point across to you guys that this is not just a sport where 40 guys every week drive in a circle. They're driving in a circle at almost 200 miles an hour. There's so many safety equipment in their car, and you can partially thank the death of Dale Earnhardt for that. We're going to move on to the next section. I want to play the announcement one more time. So I really want you guys to understand the seriousness of why NASCAR takes safety so serious. I don't know why I say takes, but you guys need to understand the situations. I have seen wrecks worse than Dale Earnhardt's death since then. Even the Ryan Newman wreck I just talked about from 6 years ago, where everyone thought that we lost Ryan Newman. But luckily we didn't.
This is undoubtedly one of the toughest announcements that I've ever personally had to make. But after the accident and turn 4 at the end of the Daytona 500, we've lost Dale Earnhardt.
All right, let's get to the next part. Alright, so I decided to combine sections 2 and 3 together with the top 10 results from each series, and the top 10 points. Now, real quick, section Okay, sections 2 and 3. I stand corrected. And then section 4, instead of writing it on the whiteboard, we're actually just going to take a look at the wrecks on what happened. We're going to look at 2 wrecks from the Daytona 500. More like 3, because we're going to watch the whole last lap of the Daytona 500 together. And then we're going to also talk about the last lap of the truck race. Actually, I have that as section 6. Why won't we just go ahead and do it when we do section 4? Since we're going to be watching, since we're about to watch at least 2.5 laps here in just a few. Since we're literally about to watch 1.5 laps here for the Cup side, so we're just going to go ahead. So ignore the order I gave at the beginning, because we're just going to go ahead and do section 6 while we do section 4, and then we'll do the qualifying. How we do qualifying if it rains. So yeah. Real quick, if you can't read that, I will read it. If you want to know what I'm holding in my hands, it is actually my notes. I make a note document every week for these podcasts, and I print off the notes. And then when we do the episode, we do it. It's easier for me to have a visual copy of my notes, because, like, sure, I can just have it on Google Docs, but sometimes I like to put so-called time-lapse in my videos, and if I do that, how am I supposed to use my phone for the notes? And also, it's easier for me to read off of. I can even read it up here. So, I do have a printout of notes on what is happening. Alright. So, we're going to start off with Daytona 500 and the points standings after. Now, I am going to go ahead and tell you this. The winner of all 3 series are the current points leader, but we'll get into the points here in just a few moments. We'll just go ahead and quickly go through all the top 10 results. I only did the top 10. If you want to know where your favorite driver finished, I'll include a link for all 3 results in the description below. Okay, results from Daytona. With the 500, we got, now, I'm going to follow along my finger up here as I read it off my document. Tyler Reddick won the race. Ricky Stenhouse was second. Joey Logano was third. Chase Elliott, who was literally the leading company record, was fourth. Brad Keselowski fifth. Zane Smith sixth. Seventh, Chris Buescher. Eighth, Riley Hurst. Ninth, Josh Berry. 10th was Bubba Wallace. For the United Rentals 300, to a shock of no one, Austin Hill first, Justin Allgaier second, Ryan Seed third, Jordan Anderson fourth, fifth, Sammy Smith, sixth, Ryan Ellis, seventh, Carson Quapple, eighth, Blaine Perkins, ninth, Jesse Love, defending winner of this race and defending O'Reilly Auto Parts champion, Jesse Love, and 10th was Rajah Caruth. Fresh from Florida 250, Chandler Smith was first, Gio Ruggiero second, third, Christian Eckes, fourth, Ty Majeski, fifth, John Hunter Nemechek, sixth, Ricky Stenhouse. And yes, Ricky Stenhouse from the Daytona 500 and Ricky Stenhouse from the Fresh from Florida 250 is the same person. Seventh, Brendan Butterbean Queen. Oh, by the way, if these drivers go by nickname, I'm just going to put the real names on the board. Unless everybody else knows them as it. Just like, for example, with Joey Logano, his real name is Joseph, but everyone else knows him as Joey. So if I say like Brendan Butterbean Queen, that's because his nickname's Butterbean. But anyway, but for like writing purposes, it's gonna be the real name. Like I said, unless it's a driver that everyone knows him as. Same thing with Bubba Wallace. Like, his real name's Durr Wallace Jr., but everyone knows him as Bubba. Anyway, 8th, Caden Honeycutt. 9th, Tyler Ankrum. 10th, Stuart Friesen. Our points. Now, due to stage racing, things will get a little bit confusing I will talk about how points are rewarded. That would be a topic of discussion between Coda and Phoenix on how points are rewarded in NASCAR. I made a video actually talking to him slowly about that. I think just a couple weeks ago, but I will touch on it again next week. That's probably something we are gonna do once a month. Is just in case y'all forgot on how points work in NASCAR, we'll touch on it again. Anyway, you know what? Since we're already on the truck side, let's go ahead and start off with the Craftsman Truck Series. We'll work backwards on the points here. By backwards, I mean we'll do Trucks, O'Reilly, and Cup. I do want to say this. I've said it in the last 2 podcasts, but I'm going to say it again. If I do accidentally say Xfinity, I'm really talking about the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. I'm still getting used for it not to be called Xfinity anymore. Anyway, not important. Here we go. Chandler Smith with 65 points. Christian Eckes with 46. Ty Majeski with 45 points. Gio Ruggiero, 36. Caden Honeycutt, 34th. Braden Queen, 32nd. Nick Lights, 31. Tyler Ankrum, 28. Stuart Peterson, 27. And Bryn Rhodes, 26. One thing I do want to say, though, the points only go to full-time drivers of that series. I just remembered as I was reading off the point side for the truck series, I did not actually go into detail on how they rewarded per race. I only talked about in detail how is it rewarded after lap 160 in Daytona. Anyway, Austin Hill with 75 points. He took all the stages. Justin Allgaier, 50. Carson Kvapil, 47. Jesse Love, our defending champion, 37th. Sammy Smith, Blaine Perkins tied with 36. Tiebreaker goes to Sammy Smith. I think because Sammy Smith finished higher than Blaine. Yet. Ryan Sieg and Rajal are tied for 34th, I think. And Sieg got the tiebreaker because of the better finish. Jordan Anderson, 33rd. Ryan Ellis, 31st. 33, and Ryan Ellis, 31. Now, the Cup side of things. Tyler Reddick, like I mentioned, he is a points leader with 58. Joe Logano, 46. Chase Elliott, 43. Zane Smith, 41. Ricky Stenhouse, Brad Kozlowski, Chris Buescher, 3-way tie with 39. But due to Ricky having the second place finish, Ricky gets tiebreaker. Brad gets tiebreaker between him and Chris because he finished higher than Chris. Bubba Wallace with 37. Carson Oscar and Blaney 9th and 10th, and I think they gave the tiebreaker to Hocevar, probably because maybe Hocevar finished higher, but we can't tell because we only did top 10. I'll be back in just a second. We're gonna go ahead and analyze these 2 wrecks. Now these three big moments from this weekend, I think. Now, reason why I'm not touching on Xfinity, I just don't think anything was really exciting to talk about from Xfinity. Or, did I say Xfinity? O'Reilly. Again, I'm going to say this several times, probably throughout the year. If I say Xfinity, I mean O'Reilly. I've just been known it as Xfinity for the first 9 years I've been watching. I'll be right back. This next part. So for the next 3 clips, I'm sorry if you can barely see me. Now, I would hopefully this is from the official NASCAR YouTube channel, the first record we can take a look at. This happened on lap 122, 123 of the race. I remember right, this did end the stage under caution. So let's take a look on what happened. We're also going to look at a couple slow-mo pictures of this. And then here we go. So, Justin Allgaier gets a little too far out in front. Real quick, I do want to add one thing on super speedways. You can get out. you are allowed to get out front, but you just can't get too far out in front because you could easily get swallowed up. He goes out to block, but then he tries to squeeze himself, and next thing you know, a bunch of cars just pile in here. Now, another angle we're going to take a look at, it's going to show that Denny Hamlin caused the wreck, but Allgaier ultimately took responsibility. So we're about to see it again. Okay, so Justin Allgaier is this car. This is Denny Hamlin, okay? Allgaier goes up the track to throw a block. Then he tries to go down just a little bit because he thinks that Blaney is coming, okay? Or Wallace, I couldn't remember who he said. Then he goes down the track, then he tries to go... Okay, it clearly shows that it was Allgaier's fault. Because he tries to go up the track, and the next thing you know, just a bunch of cars just comes piling in. And it took them a minute to figure out which all cars were involved. They said that there was 20 cars involved in this wreck. Now, here's a slow-mo. Here's a slow-mo. So, Allgaier going up... Okay, we're about to see a slow-mo in just a second. Alright? So, Allgaier going back up the track hits the wall after being clipped by Hamlin, and the next thing you know, just a big old accordion effect just occurred. And that's what happens at these tracks. That's what happens at these tracks. Let's take a look at the last lap wreck. Alright, let's take a look at the lap 123 wreck of the Daytona 500. Justin Allgaier is this car where my finger is. Okay, they're going around turn 3 and 4. He gets a little too far out in front. Denny Hamlin comes with a run. Then Allgaier goes to the bottom a little, then tries to squeeze up, and then next thing you know, just a big, accordion effect just happens. They're going to show us a couple different angles here. Here in just a second on like how this wreck broke out. But as we can see, about 20 cars were involved in this. And some were able to drive away, others weren't so lucky. Like, you can just see, Champagne Gisbergen wasn't as lucky, looks like. Bowman wasn't as lucky. Okay, I want to see a replay. Alright, here we go. Here's a slow-mo. When buffering stops. Any day now. Alright, so coming off of 4, Allgaier goes down the track a little, goes to back up to block, didn't realize he misjudged it, and then a big accordion effect just occurred. And you could just see everyone just piling in. And this is why they said on last lap of any super speedway race, you want to be first. Because stuff like this happens. And that's exactly what we're about to take a look at here in just a couple minutes. As I'm still trying to break down this wreck. Again, here, let me rewind a couple seconds. So Allgaier gets turned by Hamlin after going back up the track. And then next thing you know, just like we see here, just big accordion effect just occurred. And again, in just a couple seconds, we want to see why you want to be in first. On last lap of a Daytona 500, of a Geico 500, of a Alabama 500, 1000bulls.com. Here, what's right on with Joey Logano? And boom, he just sees everything and doesn't know where to go. And he just hits a couple cars there and whatnot. But he was lucky to drive away. Let's take one more look at Chastain. Chastain doesn't even know what's going on yet. Then a bunch of smoke. And then he gets involved in this. And looks like he manages to dodge it. And get any more damage. Okay, let's take a look. You know what? Let's take one more look. Let's take a look from Denny Hamlin. So, Hamlin's running on Chastain. Chastain tries to go to the bottom. Then then Allgaier moves back up. Boom. 20-car wreck. Hamlin involved. And it looks like Hamlin made it through. I couldn't remember if he did or not. So yeah. Oh, one more. Let's look at Allgaier's camera. And goes back up, boom, gets hit by Hamlin, and boom. And that's what basically ended Allgaier's day. Allgaier's day was done after this. And Allgaier was, when he was interviewed, was actually took the blame. So let's take a look on the lap 200 wrecks. Let's take a look at those real quick. All right, we're going to start off with them going in turn 3 and 4. Carson Hocevar is leading. Michael McDowell, by the way, gambled and stayed out. But he was the only car left to pit. And we're going to see why it didn't really work out for him. Carson Hocevar is leading. Here's this car. Okay, they're coming off turn number 4. Luckily, we ended this Daytona 500 in regulation, which has been pretty much the norm. White flag goes in the air, 1 lap to go, everything. Okay, now, here's the first wreck. Here's where the first wreck occurs, just slightly past the starting finish line. White flag goes in the air. We have started final lap of the Daytona 500, which means if a wreck was to happen now, the race is over, because the caution will come out. And then Carson Hocevar gets clipped by Eric Jones, and the next thing you know, a bunch of cars even some cars at the back gets collected. I swear a caution was about to drop. I thought a caution was about to drop. And if it did, it looked like the winner would have been Reddick. He's going to end up winning. We're about to see how. Okay. Reddick clears here a little bit to lead. And then Elliott goes down the backstretch. And Stenhouse did take the lead for a brief second. Hey, Junior. Now, Elliott gets a huge push from Zane Smith going down the backstretch. Now, Reddick's teammate Riley Hurst helps Reddick just to look for a quick second. Now, Reddick might still have a run. He goes to the outside. Hurst goes with him. And then he goes to the inside of Elliott. And then Hurst gets clipped by Brad Keselowski. Elliott gets spun around. Logano does too. So does Stenhouse. And Reddick goes on to win the race. Goes on to win the Daytona 500. And let's see if they're going to show it again. All right, here we go. The last lap. Any second. This is so annoying when I'm trying to analyze a couple wrecks for you guys. And this shit happens. This is so annoying. Alright, so they come to a tri-oval again. White flag goes in the air from this angle. Okay? Eric Jones being pushing Carson Hocevar. Actually, Dayton clips him. Spins Eric Jones. Spins McDowell. Spins a bunch of cars in the back of the pack. Byron comes back up. Three-peat's over for Byron. And then they start going down the backstretch. They're going 3 and 4. 3 wide between Stenhouse, Elliott, and Reddick. And then Elliott gets huge push from Zane Smith. But Riley Hurst wants to try to help Tyler Reddick, his teammate, to win the Daytona 500. And then Reddick goes to the outside, takes second from Zane Smith. Then he's going to dive to the bottom and tries to take first from Elliott. Then Hurst tries to go to the outside, hits the wall, clips Elliott, and then just everybody else is piled in there. Ooh. Sorry, my cat tried to knock it over. And Reddick goes on to win the Daytona 500. Now let's take a look at Chandler Smith's winning move from Friday night, because that's more worth discussing. Okay, here, let me make sure I mute this. Okay, so this is coming around to get the white flag is where we're going to start it. We're going to start it probably somewhere between between 3 and 4. Okay, because I think what happened before is a little bit worth a discussion. Okay, So they come around turn number 3 and 4, and this 62 truck, let's see who that is. John Hunter Nemechek goes and throws a block on McDowell, or McDowell gets behind him. But instead, Orton goes on side by side. Instead, he gets spun around. And let's get an identity on that other truck here. Looks like the 16. Who's the 16? Haley? Was it Haley who got hit too? No. I'm trying to get an identity on that other truck. Oh, and as you can see, Chandler Smith is 8th. Oh my god, I cannot get an identity on that other truck. Hold on. Is that the 80? Is that 81? Or is that 18? What truck is behind Friesian? Chris Wright? Is that Chris Wright? Oh yeah, because Ankram's right there. Okay. Yeah, it looks like Chris Wright. That's who, yep, Chris Wright, 81, okay. Because that's Ankram right there. But McDowell tries to go make a run on John Hunter Nemechek accidentally. And then gets spun. Get contact. I thought there was going to be a caution. But they successfully took the white flag. No caution. But luckily that was the only thing that happens. Now, the only reason why we're taking a look at this last lap is because I want you guys to watch how Chandler Smith ended up winning this race. I thought it was over for him. I thought Honeycutt or Ruggiero was going to win. And it also looked like Nemechek was going to have a good run from, I guess looks like. I'm trying to make out the car number and I can't. Junior, can you please go lay down? You've already gone over my camera twice. Alright. So, then Chandler Smith gets dropped back to 4th. Gets dropped back to 5th. After both Nemechek and Eckes passed him. Okay, we don't care about McDowell going on pit row. They go on backstretch. Smith is 6th. Now, 7th is the number 12 truck. Can't make out a number. Go lay down. Alright. And then he gets a push from Ty Majeski. Then, here's where shit gets crazy. Okay, he is 6th. Going into 3 and 4 for the final time. He is 6th. Nemechek in the lead. Eckes 2nd. Ruggiero 3rd. Stenhouse 4th. And Honeycutt 5th. Smith is 6th. Look like I've seen somebody who was 11th on the last lap and ended up winning. No, in the last corner and ended up winning. James Busher, I think it was. Anyway, not important. And then Smith passes Stenhouse. I was like, oh, okay. Then a couple blocks get thrown. And Nemechek moved up Ruggiero and Eckes there. Here comes Smith. Smith to make it 4 wide. And look what he does. I'm going to slow this down. I'm going to rewind 10 seconds. Real quick. I'm going to pause it about right here. We're going to go over here for a second. Speed, we're going to cut it down to 0.5. Because I want you guys to see this real well. Okay? Smith bumps into Nemechek, makes it 4 wide. Takes the lead. And now I can move it back to normal to win. Literally in a matter of 10 seconds. He went from being like 15, went from being 6th to ended up winning the race. I was shocked. I'll be honest, I was at the bowling alley watching this with some friends. They knew I had truck race playing on my phone. They didn't care. They didn't seem to care. I was just spending some time with them, but they know how big a NASCAR fan I was, and they know it was an opening weekend in NASCAR, but anyway, not important. And boy, that was just such a great finish. I would say that finish was better than Daytona 500s. because once that wreck broke out, like out of 4, it was over. It was over for everybody else with Reddick. All right, let's talk about how qualifying works with weather, and then at the same time, we'll also bring up my picks for the week. All right. Now, I decided to go ahead and combine the last 2 sections together, and there's where my red marker ran off to. I had to use my 2-sided markers. I hate using those. But I just found my red marker anyway. Not important. Let's go ahead and talk about let's talk about the qualifying format for weather races. They do something a little bit different. I did realize I am a little bit short sitting in the chair, but it's better on my freaking knees because I'm like on my knees. As I am doing these videos for you guys. Anyways, so it's a format formula. Now, real quick, this is determined on the qualifying groups for qualifying. What I think they should do instead is take the even and odd, like they do with the duels for Daytona, and have them qualify like that instead of what they do instead, which is the bottom 20 qualify first, and then they take top 5, and then the top 20 then on the metric then qualify, which I think is stupid. So I think what they should do is do the odd numbers in the metric in one qualifying section and even numbers in the other. I think that's more fair. Anyway, not the point. So let's go ahead and talk about the format of how it is done. So, the formula. So the ranking is 35% of the equation. The finishing position for both driver and team owner is 25%. And fastest lap is 15%. Now, due to C. Smith, Austin Hill, and Tyler Reddick, their owner rankings will also match up with the driver ranking, and their finishing position would also match up with our owner finishing position. So with that being said, Chandler Smith, Austin Hill, and Tyler Reddick, who did win this last weekend, will get the respective polls for their series. Speaking of which, here are my picks. Again, I only did 10 picks because we're at a super speedway. So I just went through and picked 10 random guys I think has a chance at winning. Super speedways, that's why I might just do that. So yeah, let's go ahead and go through with it. Ryan Blaney is my main pick to win Atlanta. I think he finished second last 2 Atlanta races. Or did he finish third to Bell and Carson Hocevar last year? Christopher Bell is the defending winner of this race. Carson Hocevar came just a bumper short at winning. Daniel Suarez won in a 3-wide photo finish between Blaney and Kyle Busch 2 years ago. Joey Logano won at Atlanta twice. I think Kyle Larson might finally get himself a super speedway win. Brad Keselowski on the old Atlanta won there quite a couple of times, but he did almost win here in 2023. I think he might show off again. Chase Elliott won here twice. Ricky Stenhouse, his one time he's really offended at super speedway, so I think he could finally take Atlanta off. That's the only super speedway he has yet to win at. Sorry about that. Tyler Reddick, I'm going with our previous race winner. Even though he only so far has 2 super speedway wins. And I think I don't know if he becomes the first driver to get 10 career wins at 10 different tracks. His first 10 career wins at 10 different tracks. But he is the 4th driver to get his first 9 career wins at 9 different tracks. For the Freight Racing 208, I picked Corey Heim. Corey Heim was a 12-race winner last year. He's not racing full-time anywhere this year, which, as being the defending Truck Series champion, he should have a ride. Kyle Busch, who I think the last handful of years actually won this race. Tanner Gray, he's been so close to winning. I think this could be it. Gio Ruggiero, last time we were on Super Speedways. Well, okay. The time before last we were on Super Speedway, he ended up winning. Lane Riggs is going to probably show off. Stuart Friesen, he was pretty close last week, wasn't he? This is another reason why I print off my notes. Well, he was 10th. Tom Majeski might get himself a Super Speedway win. The same Ricky Stenhouse that I picked for Atlanta, for the Cup race, I'm also going to pick for the truck race, because like I said, he's an excellent Super Speedway racer. Carson Hocevar is going to be in the truck race, and like I said, he was second in the Cup race last year. And I think he has so far only one in trucks, and Jake Garcia. Okay. To shock of no one, I picked Austin Hill and Jesse Love as two of my picks for the O'Reilly Auto Parts race. I also picked. I decided to pick Rajah, Justin, and Sammy as my picks, as three of my picks. Even though I decided to pick all those junior motorsports drivers. Nick Sanchez, who won this race, and Sid Meier. Did I pick all Chevrolets? I just realized for the O'Reilly part, I picked all Chevrolets. I am now just realizing I picked all Chevrolets. Well, then again, that's basically what all O'Reilly is, except for the Joe Gibbs Racing in one other team. I don't think there's a single Ford in O'Reilly. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Because Austin Hill's a Chevy, Justin Love's a Chevy, Allgaier is a Chevy, Sammy Smith is a Chevy, Nick Sanchez is a Chevy. Last time we were in Atlanta, he won. Sid Meier's a Chevy. Same with Sheldon Creed. Rajah is a Chevy, obviously, because he's teammates of Allgaier and Smith. Same with Carson Quapple. He's also a JGR driver. And Jed Burton is a Chevy. I literally pick all Chevys? I don't know how I'm just now realizing. After going through my picks with you guys, that I picked all Chevys for the O'Reilly's race. I don't know why I'm now just realizing this. Alrighty. Anyway, that does it for this podcast. Like, subscribe, comment, be nice, cool, be awesome. Eric Pate on the hates. Oh, wait a minute. This is not. Well, I'll see you guys next week with another episode of Let's Talk Racing. Next week's topic of discussion for education is going to be the different types of tires in NASCAR. Check the flags in the air, and I'll see you guys next week.